Okay, let me tell you why hierarchical thinking is two-dimensional, and that when you think that way, you're living not in the third dimension, you're living in the two dimensions. So, if you think of awarenesses as you have 2 points of view, right? So you're thinking in terms of good and bad, black and white, red and blue, right? This is like red, blue, right? Republican, Democrat, okay? This is two-dimensional thinking. If you look at these two, they're always on a flat surface. So this one's always in front of this one or behind this one. You can only think of it as like in front of, behind, up or down, but you're always on that flat two-dimensional plane, okay? So when you are thinking us versus them, you're thinking two-dimensionally, okay? Only when you go above the two to the third and you raise your consciousness are you able to see things from a bird's eye perspective, which is the third. This is the third perspective. This is your third dimensional thinking, where you're able to look down and see things from a bird's eye view. And as you look down, you start to see that things are not exactly as they seem, right? You get the third dimensional point of view. And then things become relative, right? So you don't have to go above or below. You're just over here. But ultimately, once you get into the third dimension of thinking and beyond, you think in terms of relativity, because you realize that thinking in terms of black or white is two-dimensional. It's really that simple. When you get your third aspect, you can look down and see the red and the blue from a different angle. But if you're like down here, right, and you don't even see that you're really, all you see is this one, and you realize that you guys are different, right? And so you're like, oh, I'm this one and you're that one. But really, it's two-dimensional thinking. This is like the lowest this is like separation consciousness. This is believing that you are this and that another is this, and that's all there is. And you're either above them or below them. This is like hierarchical thinking, right? So I'm better than this one, I'm different. This is like the judgmental mind. This is like thinking in terms of your ego. An ego is not someone who's prideful. An ego is someone who looks at everyone else as something to judge and transact with, according to like things of attainment, right? But once you get like a third perspective, you're able to look at the rest and say, oh, now if you notice, to get the third perspective, you literally have to realize that there is no black or white, there's gray. So you merge the two, and when you merge the red and the blue, which would be like the masculine and feminine, left and right, black and white, you merge them and you create the Vesica Pisces, which is the thing you can go through, which is your third eye. You create an eye and you go through it and you gain your higher awareness, where you're able to then think on a different level. It's all about thinking. So the Republicans and the Democrats and all the division creators, right? They all seek to divide and conquer, because as long as you're here or here, you are not effective in your life. You're literally just creating discourse, because you're not learning, you're growing, you're just stagnating. You're just going like this, and you think that there's just, people think they're in the third dimension because they can see they can see that things have depth and things like that, but literally it's not that. The mode of thinking has to ascend to a level to incorporate the fact that that there is no red or blue. There's just variations and mixings of it. And then once you get into, so this is like the flat plane awareness is like, oh, I'm red and you're blue. Okay, I got more money than you, so I'm up here, I'm better than you, right? It's hierarchical thinking. However, when you get the third, you realize then that this is like a sphere of awareness. You've broken the plane, right? And you've created a whole nother plane. So now you have the third perspective and you're able to grow your geometry that way. Literally, consciousness development is geometry development. So when you get your third, then you're able to see that, oh, everything is relative. Because if this one's here and this one's here, right? And then say like there's another human here, okay? Well, this one thinks it's higher relative to this one, but this one thinks it is, it's like when you're thinking of it from like the one pointed aspect, you're thinking in terms of two. So this is why I say we're literally in the two-dimensional plane right now. We're not actually in the third. We're building the third in the Bilderberg realm, which is literally the black and white realm. This is why the checkerboard is worshipped, because if you're always choosing black or white, you're never mixing your cups and understanding that there is no black and white. There's really experience to grow your consciousness from. And so only when you get into the higher mind perspective or more expanded, see, it's just expansion. It's not really higher or lower, because when you expand, you start to see that there's relativity. So I'm higher relative to this, but also I would be lower relative to like this, right? So you start to see that there is no higher and lower. There's just relativity. So if there is no higher and lower, then the whole idea of hierarchy shatters before your eyes, and you realize it's a complete fucking scam, and it's meant to create discourse. However, it's understandable though that we have to do that first, because when you come into this place, you are like one single dot of awareness that is undefined, right? You don't have any sort of like understanding of anything other than that you just are. This is why they say, oh, it's like the I am. Yeah, you are. You just are. You're just that, right? But when you start to diversify, you realize that, oh, there's other people. And then you start to think in the two-dimensional plane, like, right? 2 dimensions, either back or front, up or down, left or right. Those are 2 dimensions. Only when you get the third perspective by merging the two can you then gain a higher understanding, and thus enters actual relativity, and you realize that everyone is just a relative of you, and they're all experiencing things on a different programming, right? And you start to see that everyone else is just another aspect of you. Because we all come from the same source, and you start to realize that there is no better or worse than, there is no higher or lower, there's only relativity. And then you realize that everything is growth, development, and learning. And then you can start to build your geometry based on your experiences. You can start to create more points of awareness. And then as you create the more points of awareness, you connect the dots, and what does that become? Higher geometry. And you start to create order out of the chaos of the unknown. So this is basically what is happening, and what this whole place is created for. It is a consciousness developer. So if you take one node of consciousness that doesn't know anything and put it into a simulation where it first separates itself into 2, but it doesn't realize it because it's on one side. This is why when the womb happens, they say that you are first masculine and feminine, and then as you go on, you diversify into either the masculine or the feminine, but ultimately you always have both energies within you. So you need to remerge them to gain the higher perspectives. So most people on this earth right now, I mean, I don't know, but a lot of people on this earth right now are thinking from this paradigm. Okay, that good versus bad, you know. So when they encounter people who are thinking from this sort of paradigm or higher, they think that they're weird because they're not really grounded in this false reality. So that is the message for today. And I'll probably make a better video about this, but Spirit just, I don't know, wanted me to film this really quick, and I have a better setup, but I just wanted to get this out there because this is the true third perspective. Your third eye has to be that you've overcome the duality of separated self. You realize that there is no higher or lower, nothing to really compare to, only relatives to interact with through experience to grow further consciousness and understanding of who you are, what this place is, and how you want to be, you know? So, and this only is going to happen through self-reflection, because if this person, if they're in the 2 dimension, and this person is always thinking they're right, and they're thinking this person's always wrong, they are just going in a circle year after year, right? This is like the Pink Floyd song, we're just 2 lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, but really this is the same soul split in 2, if you will. So that's how we're all fractals of the same. We're all fractals of the one, and this is why when you get to understand that, this is considered unity consciousness, where you realize that there is no hierarchy. And the powers that be that thrive off of this division do not want this message to be broadcast, because they only stay at the top of their little pyramid or whatever if you are stuck down here thinking that you are against, everything else, instead of communing with it and then collectively creating together. Do you know what I mean? So this is what they call the fighting. This is a 2-dimensional realm. It's not real. So to get real, you need to literally remerge and be born above. This is what Jesus meant when he said be born above. He means look at yourself. And the only way to do that is self-reflect. So it really is like watching 2 dogs fight over the barf, because they don't even see that they're actually the same dog, just separated into 2 different bodies, right? So, yeah. Okay, I love you.